Yeah. Yes, indeed.
You ain't going nowhere.
Mm-mm.
You're still around if you know where to look.
Mm.
Present this door is the wind itself. It's invisible.
Oh, yes. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Mhm.
Just as we open up on air. Nothing but peace and love. As we open up in the name of our divine creator, Allah Sufiana, Awawala al Fatiha, Al Mujizia. Oh, yes. Hey, we back. We back. Y'all, we here for a little longer. The creator got us here a little longer, y'all.
Having a love, Barakatah.
Oh, yes.
Much love. Much love.
Send much love. Send much love. In La Wadua. Oh, yes. We have to send that divine divinity back. Yes, that's why we're going to have the flesh and the mind intact.
Right on.
Hey, so when it's time to give it back.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, the glory.
Return to sin.
Yes, return to sender. We're talking about the glory of receiving the glorified spirit, y'all will say.
Yes.
The glorified spiritual body.
That's what we want to be working on.
Ooh,
Not
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So it'll break down, some will slip or trip, or you name it. But that spiritual body,
Yes.
that soulful body,
Mm-hmm.
that conscious body.
Mm-hmm. That's all good right there. Okay, being shared. Man, we done made it through the concrete jungle.
Yes,
I didn't understand it then.
somebody trying to tell you something.
Yes, they say they made a. We out here in jungle. Man, we made it through. We made it through community, through the concrete jungle. This jungle was made out of concrete, but they didn't want us to escape.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. It's hard and hard shit.
Yes, tall and high. Oh.
You'll fall flat on your back if you're standing under one of those skyscrapers and look up. And if you keep looking, you fall back. That's the effect it has on me. I've been there, done that, and I looked up. That's how I know get bearing witness. I don't let me sit at 9, but once upon a time, and that's the story said.
Yeah. So we'll get ready to open our beautiful grandies. Yes, with these beautiful Sufa. Yes, we're gonna
plus 2 is 9 all day.
Yes, we're gonna bring a beautiful Sufa
72 degrees.
before we begin on the 72, which is a good number that we want to talk on for a little minute. We're gonna bring a Sufa in.
Oh yeah, got you. Please do.
As it.
Please do.
We're gonna bring it just as it is, as all the Sufa is as is. Because we're looking for a certain outcome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
At least at this community, we looking, I hope, globally and worldly and all humanitarianly, that everybody looking for the same end goal.
Yes, good.
But we want to be understood that the end goal that all should be predicated upon is reaching paradise.
Right on.
Reaching the paradise.
Look at And all I can think about this morning, about just like what you're saying, but I was using in another term, was crossing the finishing line.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we must.
Remember the words of Jesus when he said, "It's finished."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you have the endurance and the wisdom to cross the finishing line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Go right here, brother.
Yeah, I'm glad you introduced it as such.
Oh, yeah.
Because that finishing line, did we know it had to do with language? All of this had to do with language.
Look here.
The concrete jungle they built was the fortress, the walls, the boundaries inside of the words called terms and conditions.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's what we see today. Beautiful.
And when we speak certain words contained in these terms and conditions,
makes sense.
It make us agreeable to the terms and the conditions.
No wonder I'm winding up where we
at. And this is how we wind up where we at.
I see where we don't wind up where we at. We've been little schools. Go ahead, son.
The maze, you cranking it up. The maze of the concrete jungle. Hey, you keep on coming, though.
Man,
let us all.
Shame. I hope everybody out there in the internet land is listening that has ears to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're talking good talk today.
Yes.
That's all we have is good news. Because I heard enough bad news.
Mm-hmm. 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 And I'm glad you said it that way, because that brings in back what we're saying with the words. You can't receive bad news if someone ain't speaking. So this is how they begin to change our way of thinking by giving us a language that will change our thinking.
That makes sense.
Kuta Kinte, Toby. Kuta Kinte, Toby.
Look at here.
Toby.
I hear
Toby.
Toby.
He said Kuta Kinte.
I hear
He said Toby.
He
said Kuta Kinte. Hey, this was the fight of the language shift. Hey.
Yeah, back and forth.
Back and forth. Hey, the war of heaven.
But I was getting the message all along for what I'm saying, because I seen something that was against another man's will, and they were being forced on it.
The language. Change our thinking. They needed to change our language. Toby.
And he kept saying Allah. He didn't say just God.
Right. Because everybody that's from our kind always worship the Great Spirit. Mm-hmm. And whatever name that Great Spirit came in,
yes, that's what was said.
That's what we were going out with. Mm-hmm. And that's what was said. Right on. Now, we know that was just a movie. Yeah. So, of course, in the movie made by the aggressor, they gonna make him seem like he surrendered. Yeah. But we know our Creator never surrendered.
Right on.
So now when we're talking about those who never surrender shall enter the paradise.
Oh yeah, that's where I'm headed.
We're gonna read a little bit about paradise, y'all.
That's where I'm headed.
Yes. And it's remember, as we wake up and continue to stay aware. Beautiful. To not go back to sleep, instead of waking up and going back to sleep. Yes. We now waking up to stay aware.
Beautiful. Glad you put it that way.
Not asleep, but aware.
Yeah, good.
We want to stay aware. Hands got to move it.
And if you ask the question today, how many of you is aware today and awakened today? Because that's important.
This is important. And as we waking up out our slumber, I used to hear a saying that we were stuck in light codes. There was a saying at a time that light codes was what black folks were stuck in. And so those light codes become language codes. And so with them coding truth in a language, secret, to hide knowledge, they was able to give us this called the alphabetic script. This is how they hid knowledge from us
with alphabet.
With the alphabet.
But that's a tricky situation.
It's the concrete jungle. It's how they start building, how they use a cinder block or a brick to build brick by brick. They use letter by letter to build word by word. So they build a whole boundary of an enclosement and say you sentence. So all this play a critical role.
Right on.
And that's why we have to understand language so we can break through.
Yeah.
It's a reason why before they came here, we had our own language.
Yeah.
Historians know this.
That's correct.
Nah, they did a massive, before there was a genocide and a Holocaust.
Yeah.
They did that as a combination on the people of North America and the people of the Americana.
Yeah, combo.
They did a combo, a Holocaust and a genocide.
That's right, a combo of evil. That's right.
A masquerade.
Yeah.
And this is why we have such a gap.
Yeah.
And why we don't understand what we need to understand.
That's correct.
But we are coming to understand why we have been given such a time where truth is revealed for us to be able to repent and return.
Yeah.
Return home.
That's correct.
And that's the paradigm. And if we want to return home, we got to know where home was.
Yeah.
So as we've been seeing, we've been lied to a long time without knowing that the first Christian language was Arabic. And now Christians have took on another understanding through an alphabetical script. And this alphabetical script is not have any Arabic thought. It has westernized thought.
Yes, indeed.
Not the Eastern thought, but the Western thought. So that alphabet now contains the Western thought, which will now shift our thinking away from where we need to be in expressing.
Makes sense.
So it took us away from our ancestors' words, and we picked up a foreigner's word and started using foreign words.
Yeah. And
so now we are conceived as black or foreigners. The game been flipped. So as we return the church, as we return Christianity, which belongs to the English crown.
Yes.
See, we have to understand that came with a whole language code. And that language code imprisoned us until we understood the code of the language.
That's correct. That's correct. Beautiful truth.
These are the codes that was in the Bible that stuck out in our people's minds. to wake us up, to keep us in a certain remembrance.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to forget. So as we pick up our remembrance, this is where Sufian English come in. This is to help us remind ourselves who we are while we speak who we are. While we still speak English.
Yeah.
So now, as a backdrop, we have to understand, where did English come from?
Backdrop.
Yes, a backdrop.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to do a little quick backdrop.
Yes, indeed.
Anybody got anything to say while I pull up the documentation? Because we finna go in.
Oh, yeah. One thing I want to say is that my ears have heard some beautiful words they say. And I hope that everyone is listening clear, crystal clear. So there's some good news to hear today. And all I could think about as you were saying that, analyzing language part, I said, you know what? He's right. I said, because the Greek alphabet, and we else, but I guess we so geeked up to just to learn, we were ready to learn anything. And we was a sucker waiting, and Mr. Invader and Mr. Conscious man who's using his conscience on you because you unconscious. And now he's making his move. And that's exactly what they taught me with the alphabet, but I didn't think much of it.
Right, when we was young, we didn't think much.
Man,
this is our beginning point,
yeah,
where we all can recognize.
I'm like the poker player, all in.
Right.
You know?
Yes. That's right. They knew that.
All in. We're supposed to be the same way in truth, in knowing, and where with language as well. We're supposed to be all in, not just English. That's all I know. I'm trying to learn a little Arab, but just a little that too. But that English, oh man, we can might not be the right sound, the right meaning, because his alphabet meaning, because he put it all together. And that's a fact, and I don't care who's out there listening, it's a fact. And the majority of people in North America, that's what we
just need to get a good thorough understanding of it, because that is what we speak, currently.
Now, to that being said, and that's what we're speaking, we can still use that to find our right way and not go along with the wrong way, because speaking in English, and we know that English, they are doing bad things, and we see this, and they ain't living by the Constitution or holding it up. They're not living by justice and holding justice up, and not even mention equality and equity. So we just have to not go along with his way any longer. Today, not tomorrow, but today, this moment. Ain't no more playing around. looking for in the soup.
It's just so much being said. You would have to, or for me, I analyze. So,
Oh yes.
like things have to be a concern for people to give it some recognition.
Yeah.
So people may not understand why it's important to understand the language imprisonment. Because if all our beginning no other language, it's because you don't know the alphabet. If you have the alphabet, then you can understand the language. See, if whatever alphabet you have, that's the language you can understand.
Mm-hmm.
See, and so now alphabets speak those alphabets.
Yes.
So now you can understand their alphabet.
Yeah.
So now the more you get into understanding their alphabet, now you're going into their reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not definable by us.
Come on with it.
That's why they stand in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to understand the origin,
yeah,
of where it comes from as just plain English. And that's why I said Sufian English.
Yeah.
Now we taking it back. It's not
Yeah,
just plain English. It's into a original form of English.
Right on.
And more importantly, it returns Christianity. And most importantly, it turned Christianity Arabic roots.
Yeah.
So now when we speak Sufian English, we have a new understanding.
Oh, yes.
It's going to come now with a new set of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's going to help us remove each self out of the concrete jungle, letter by letter.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Because we got to return to the highest part of self, which is spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And spirit existed before an alphabet was given.
Yeah.
If you was dead, you couldn't learn the alphabet. You were alive. You wasn't born dead.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why they had to rush us.
Mm-hmm.
And give us something called the alphabets.
Mm-hmm. Kappa Alpha.
Right. So for question, do other alphabet besides the English alphabet?
It's a good question.
And if you do, then that means you can speak another language. Mm-hmm. If you don't, that means you cannot speak another language.
That's right. Oh, that's in jail, don't it?
Now, just from the alphabet alone.
Already.
This is what the sorcerer knows. So his that's part of his conjuration. So this is why we're going to see the backdrop of how English came forth. Now, Anglo-Saxon law. Get all this from law now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this concerning English. Anglo-Saxon form, also known as Angolese.
Angolese? Wait a minute, is it trying to tell me something?
Mm-hmm. Just listen to all the words.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic. This is when you just speak plain English. This is what it goes back to. Mm-hmm. Also known as sacred law and Carolingian law.
Carolingian? I need to be a little bit more specific on that, but go right ahead.
Was first introduced by Charles Martel.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Of the Franks.
Charles Martel of France.
Of the Franks, yes, the France. In the 8th century, in the new language of Angolese, later known as English and Old French.
Oh, man. I just learned something today.
So this is very important to understand that English comes from Anglo-Saxon, which was created by Charles Martel in the 8th century, who was of France, known as the Franks. So there you have Old French. So in France, Old French, English, now known as French and English.
No slick joker. No, mixed it up. Yeah.
So English is a mixture of Angolese and English. And this was created by a man known as Charles Martel. Invented by the Venerable Bede and a large body of scholars in the 8th century as the official language of the Carolingian Empire. Prior to the 8th century, neither Angolese nor English existed.
Look at that.
So, depending on what alphabets you have, you can be limited in the time span that your language. If you don't have a language that goes back to the time, then you stuck in the time of the language frame.
Man, I'm looking at the years after Muhammad, when he came on the scene 16, and then here 2 centuries later, some 200 years later.
Yes, he came in the 7th century. Jesus came in the 1st century. So now we have to ask, was they speaking English or English when it didn't exist?
According to the data.
So how could you be speaking the language of your Savior?
Beautiful.
We have been hijacked through an alphabetical to take us away from our Savior.
That's what they did.
So the word Jesus actually wouldn't exist because that language didn't exist when he existed. So this is why we have to understand why we Sufian English to put us back on the way. Knocked us off the way with the alphabetical script called English.
Yes, indeed. And then they took the alphabet and spelled the word English, and that locked us right on the, put us right in the prison. The language changed. It's clear as day, son. Clear as day.
Yes. So who created this English language? The Carolingian Empire.
Spell that. My pen ain't right.
C-A-R.
Wait a minute. C-A-R.
O-L.
Okay.
I-N. I-A-N.
Carolingian Empire.
Empire.
I hope that ain't
These
a
are
little Carolina flavor and
This
North Carolina flavor. I hope that ain't some of the Drew drops.
if it's labeled in English. Is it in English character?
I'm just thinking that I'm hearing. That's all, man.
And see, and that's good. See, because that's what thinking is. Thinking supersedes language. Thinking is prior to language. That's why we can understand that they have used language to change and.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, that's it.
So these people are part of what they call the Romans.
Look good here.
But they part of the Catholic side before the conquering of the Catholics.
Yeah.
By the Roman and the Vatican.
Oh, it's clear. It's crystal clear.
So the injustice, but then one did a greater injustice.
Yeah.
So by the 16th century,
8 centuries later,
yes, under the Venetians and the Roman court of Edward I, this process was completed with the influx of new words in English through the Jesuit created Shakespearean constructed portfolio constructed at the Jesuit College of English.
So it's a college over in the Jesuit.
The Jesuits.
So that proof is in the pudding.
So this is why it goes back to the English crown. Jesuit College of English, at which William Shakespeare, if you heard of that name.
Oh, that's all they taught me in school.
Himself was briefly in attendance.
What you say?
So that go your.
Look at that.
We've been covering Rome, so you have continual insight that has been given. A lot of things should be matching up that was unknown.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
See, so this whole English was a way, and it was a plot of revenge. So now we're going to get to the alphabetic script of English from A through Z derives from the Latin alphabetic script.
So that's why all the definitions, when you get searching for the meaning, it'll say derived from Latin. Is that what they're telling us?
It's derived from Latin. And we must understand where these languages connect to.
Yeah.
And going off their alphabetical script, they was able to mislead us.
Yeah.
So now they have kept us away from understanding certain meanings.
Yeah.
And this is why we have not learned any other language, and they have not offered any other language for you to learn.
That's correct.
So the simple spelling of A, B, C, D, E, F, G is where it all begins. This is how they started beginning, changing our thinking.
Still remember in deeply. That's how deeply. If you don't know what's going on, that's how deep it can travel within you. And inside your mind is just like a seed. A seed of wrongfulness. Intentional, I may say.
And so when we say that, like I just did, that is phonetics.
Phonetics.
When you were young, or any time in your experience, do you ever remember hearing hooked on phonics?
Yes, many times.
The word phonics come from the word phonetics.
Look at that.
So this is how they implant the plant inside of us by getting us to speak it. And once we started speaking it, it'll start engraving or paragraphing in the brain. So, yes, by 1492, they had established the English alphabet. So that's when they set from Rome. Now, the original place of of their birth, we're talking about Romans now. Romans are not from Europe. When we're talking about the Romans that in Europe, we are talking about a different set, a whole different class, the ones that we dealing with over here. Come from Europe. They came to Europe. The Romans that I'm talking about, they came from Africa. So in nationality wise, we are African. So we are talking about the Carthaginians. These Carthaginians, or where you get the word Phoenician, is where you get the word phonics. These people is the same people who told us something over here, a phrase called hooked on phonics. This who built the concrete jungle. So they gave us a English alphabet is connected to a African language. And the African language is a dialect of Hebrew. Or before we get to Hebrew, it's a dialect of Latin. And Latin is a dialect of Hebrew. And when I say saying Hebrew, the proper word is Hebrew. Those people are called waters. The people who live not on our land but live across the waters, they are called Ephraim. You get Hebrew, you get. If I say it in English, you might understand as Afri, Africa, the people across the waters. In scripts, the Israelites or they would say Jewish. Yeah. Do you know that time we was in a bowling alley? We was in a bowling alley, and he said he was a Jew. He came and seen something.
He saw y'all when y'all were dressing your time.
And he came and approached.
White guy?
No, it was a bro. It was like I would say then. It was a brother. Ones that's from across the sea.
Okay. But he approached.
Now it depends on how they are, if they cousins or not.
Okay.
But we have to understand. He said that he was a Jew, and he didn't look like us. I mean, he didn't sound like us, and he didn't have the mannerisms as us, but he looked like us, just complexion and just.
Like he wasn't dressed in jeans and t-shirt, with a hat. And then you couldn't tell that he.
Yeah.
Right, until he said it. And then the difference was because see, that's what I'm talking about here. When we say all folks, those same skin, we wasn't the same kin. So this is what has happened through the language. They took across the waters, they use an alphabetical language. We have to understand African. African is associated with our ancestry.
That's correct. Correct.
And these are the people who hate our creator.
That's correct.
How is why we're going through. And so when you hear about England people or English people invading Africa, they're not invading Africa. They're going back to their homeland. So the people, because it's already in the alphabetical script, because they don't have the alphabetical script of Islam is a wholly different alphabetical script if we talking alphabetical script. So you would think different if you got an alphabetical script of Islam. So the opposite of Islam is Israel. This is why skin, kin. So this is why we have to understand what's going on here. So this is why this is all about language speaking. So we have to understand we've been given something opposite of who we are as a language. All Islamic thought or Islamic alphabet is based on Arabic. Arabic is not African. It's two totally different. And so, like when you read in the Bible where there was a time where it came as an event where they said that the Egyptians and the Hebrews was not the same people. It's in the Bible, Old Testament. And those who understand what I'm saying, this is why the skin is the same, but not the kin and kin, meaning the spirit.
Right on.
They look the same in the flesh, but our spirit is not.
Right.
So this is how we begin to tell the difference between who's who. And this is why we said the spirit of the law and not the letter of the law. Because the alphabetical script is the letter. And so this Isabella, Ferdinand, these people, or Queen Isabella, or Queen Elizabeth, these people are a part of the English. And so when this is why everything in this apart. They thought we would never figure this, but it's figured out.
Oh yeah.
And and this is the whole call. We're gonna read Article 161 English, just one little part. Now this is after they done advanced it from Old French and Angolese, which was the eighth that did not exist prior to the 8th century. Now they've been working on it, and now it's time for them to come over here where they say, now discovery is a word of law. This is what we didn't know. So when they were saying they discovered America, they was actually saying a law that we didn't know of, which is the law of discovery.
Yeah.
The discovery of nature. So through the alphabetical script, they was able to tell us what they wanted to tell us. And so this is how they did it, is important what they didn't teach us in school about English. They taught you about English, and you went to an English school.
Sure did. They didn't tell us the root. Nothing about now what my ears are hearing today.
Right. We would have put what I'm saying, this is what we would have put together way back then. And we would have broke the spell.
Yeah.
Without that knowledge, we can't break the spell.
Can't break the spell.
Because the language is the spell.
That's right.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Makes so much sense.
All right. English is a late 15th century formed. Mm-hmm.
Did I hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Did I hear that?
He called it artificially formed phonological for language created by and the Venetian language, Latin, and printing experts at the Palace of Westminster, with the authority of King Henry VII, the Tudor. You ever heard of the Tudor? The Tudor of England.
Tudor. Boy, they getting them right, ain't they?
Here it come. This is what was artificially formed for commercial and political purposes.
What you say? Money is idea. My.
If you ever wonder why they getting so rich.
And that's all we have as politicians, and there's two politicians running for the one word called presidency.
And they richer than
my.
Why rich people asking the people for help?
Yeah.
A language game, which is so this artificial language now, we are going to the grave with this language. And if this is artificial, do that mean it's nothing, or do that mean it's something?
Nothing.
It ain't nothing. So now it means that this is the language of unconsciousness.
That's what it is.
Where you know nothing about yourself.
Ain't that a shame?
That's why we know about money, and we are always a purpose.
Yes, indeed.
Prices going up, gas going up.
Right.
All those are political purposes.
That's right.
The money we got to pay for is commercial of political purposes. Thing that they have set up in this society is based on commercialism and politicalism.
That's the truth. Has nothing. And they holler, God this and God put on money, and God we trust. They playing a game with us. And another thing, I guess they built all the churches that'll be the front that they believe in the same God that you believe in. And now you just look at the situation at hand and at large. Open their mind up on the internet.
Thanks to Creator.
Oh yes, if they heard that and all that, my ears have heard. It's the alphabet that you.
That's how clear it is. That's the alphabet we say. So that's why when we talk about the paradise, this is to give us a new meaning and a new phonetics.
Yes, indeed.
We familiar with this phonetic. We familiar, not so familiar with the other.
Mm.
But in Sufian is illa Jannah. Jannah. That's paradise.
Mm.
That's the paradise. Heaven.
Say Illah what?
No.
ELAJ.
ILLAH and
It's
JANNAH.
ILA.
And then JANNAH.
A.
Illa Ja'anna.
J.
Two N's.
Two N's.
Then a AH.
Then a A. H. Got it.
That means the paradise. This is the life beyond. Ja'anna.
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 This is life beyond. This is our ultimate goal where we want to reach by living a life of righteousness.
That's right. That's spelled with an I or E. Illah. Jannah.
Oh, AA.
No. Beginning.
Oh, the beginning AL.
I got an I. Okay. Glad
It's pronounced with an I. That's phonetic.
That's why I wrote that down like that, because I heard that I.
But it's spelled with the letter with the A.
Just like Allah.
This is where the Sufian part. Then in English we say, "Oh, you who believe, let it be said," and then we say our Sufian language. So that's what I'm familiar with is As-Salam. These are words of the life beyond. Those that came before us is in they in As-Salam illa Ja'anna. And if we follow, because remember they spoke this language. This is the point of bringing it back home.
Yes, indeed.
That Arabic was a Christian language. So Christians have fell for the English part of the alphabet, which will lead them away from paradise, the opposite of paradise, which you would call hell, but it's unconsciousness, where you don't know yourself. Warden at death, which we supposed to go through death with consciousness, but by unconsciousness. The language is.
Yeah, I don't want to be unconscious.
So this is why we had a certain phonetics, how we spoke. And this is the place of the Savior. So when you hear about Jesus being the Savior, this is where he was talking about, I was going to make a place for you. And so if you understand the language, I was going to prepare a place. That place is called Illa Ja'anna. And when you're a believer of Illa Ja'anna, you say As-Salam. And that's the 47th name of our Creator. The place of the Savior. So all this has a play. So that is heaven to us. That is called paradise to us. So now let's bring it back to us on the land. Can we see now, if I bring up the subject matter, that why they call you now, why they call you African American? Why African American? Why are we African Americans? Does that make sense now?
Yeah, because what you gonna explain all connected to that.
It's all connected to it. This is how they say actually you can't be from Africa and America.
Right.
How are we African American? And now that I just bring it all what? Africans. So if Romans say they conquer the people, they're gonna put their name on the people.
That's right.
So the name on the people of the land is called African. Is a African language. English is an African dialect. Us as Americans don't supposed to speak English. Our language sound like Illa Sufian.
Yeah.
When it comes to this is where now we gotta understand language because we have to speak. So in our Sufian, we said number one, because you are identifying yourself and you are identifying what you are under. So if the first words come out your mouth are the dialect of African, now that means you are under the African system. And if it's law at that time, now you're going to be punished as that penalty is explained. So now we're talking about the Black Christian codes of 1724. Oh, see, they wanted us to black out. Remember, all this associate African, English, all associate with unconsciousness. Unconsciousness is the dark black. So when they hit Hiram, another language, another identity, and he's unconscious. And now he lost his language. He was hit in the throat. He lost his language, his connection to his creator. He now has a imposter imitating, some masking.
Yeah.
So now this is why we have Sufian English, and we have to understand what it's for and its purpose. It's for us just to have as our guidepost and our constitution of law for our divine rights and protection, but also our inheritance, our divine creed indeed, in trust by our grantor. So if we understand this is how we all be free. in the breaking the spell letter by letter. And now we can hit 72 up. Give us a little break on that subject matter.
Oh, that was beautiful. I mean, beautiful.
Praise be. Oh, praise.
Beautiful saying,
yes,
beautiful analyzing, beautiful thought. Well said. 72, the right fear. When we don't fear what we should fear, we are in fearful danger. My. We ought not to live in we ought not to do stupid work. And when you just think about all that you've said, all that people's ears have heard, that ought to put them right there in that category, because we done went to school and been taught to be a stupid fool. Put it so bluntly. Because we was taught English, and after hearing that, and they really made an idiot out of it. And that's why, I mean, it's plain as day.
You know, our ancient word for, you know how we call people stupid or dumb or moron, they would say. I used to call them moron. Was an African.
Look up there. Now. My. Is that, I can't imagine they think of that. That's why we call ourselves Black Africa now, because we promote it so deep.
So deep. Just look at our actions. Go after African, Black, African. We don't know the Black is more powerful than African. That's why they said blackamoors, but we didn't understand phonetics.
Yeah.
They saying it because calling us Black.
Yeah.
Call ourselves Black because we didn't speak African.
No.
So we could never be calling ourselves something once we understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Anything that's a war against, it's the best way to say it.
Oh yeah.
Against Islam.
Yeah.
Which was called in our tongue Illa Sufian.
Whole different term name.
This is how we never forgot. But the people who tried to make us forget, won't forget. And start calling it something like Africans call it, Islam. These are our African speak. We don't speak that way. To associate with Africa and to associate with the transatlantic slave trade, which was African based.
Yeah.
They sell their children. Africans today do magic. Africans today practice voodoo.
Yeah. All the above. Check all the box.
This is why we different from them. We don't practice none of that stuff. We got a good religion.
They ain't selling the children.
We got a faith. Yes, we don't. None of them spirits. This is why we said spirits. None of them spirits, but we called it in older term, we called them JJ. So they was
Look at it. Went to see a comedian named he was a comedian.
and what makes an African is they have a JJ in it. The knowledge being revealed as it is. As we continue, this is why they wanted the war in heaven.
If we don't accept stupidity, we won't act stupidly. Don't that make sense? Don't that make sense? And what I love about it is that we don't have to accept this. The Democratic Party don't have to accept the Republican Party. We don't have to accept Capitol Hill ideals. In those English alphabets and English words. So, wise souls know but don't show. Look but don't prize themselves. Letting the one go, keeping the other.
See, and that's how we easily solve this language code. Just letting it go. Letting the other go. And keeping the one.
So, let's hit the brakes in a little bit. So if we keep traveling and going the way we going, in the way we learn it, in the way they are teaching, this spell will go on and on and on and on until someone decides to do just what it said. It don't accept stupidity, and you won't be with stupidity. Now you know what you're gonna do. Now you've heard what you're gonna do. Speaking of 72, is that how many alphabets in Arabic?
28.
28 in Arabic.
In the classical old Arabic. But 72.
26 in the English alphabet.
26.
It was 72. Maybe they were wrong on that. I don't know.
Well, 72 once you put all of them together.
Okay.
It becomes 72. It's a whole language thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the lesser, that Solomon magic, it's African magic.
Okay.
That's part of all of that right there. Oh yeah, that's where the 7 come in from. that language from Greek and Hebrew.
Hebrew and Latin.
Yep, and Latin.
Okay.
That's how they get the script down.
Okay, go.
And then they store all their sorcery in Greek and Hebrew. Afri.
So that explains the Vatican. Why they Okay, everything coming together.
Mm-hmm. If you was to hear them speak to them dead spirits, they speak behind closed door, it would sound African. They wouldn't be talking like how they talking to the people. It'll sound African.
I do declare. I do declare.
The people that they work together.
Mm-hmm.
Just look into society, look into the world. Look who get more help. Do Africa get more help than America? America get. And this is why. That's like putting it back home. So the rulers that's rising over there in Africa, that's who is calling shots. Man, you see they dress just like.
Yeah.
See, and this is the difference. This is why we have to understand over here why we got European names. We don't have African names over here. You will hear a European name before you hear an African name over here. Yeah. Because this land don't belong to Africa. This land belongs to Europeans. And who are Europeans? Islam. Mm-hmm. This is Islam's side of it. When we talking about America. Only place that don't want to follow Islam is Africa. Mm. They growing. Prominent figures have came in their time. These are the people that's across the river, what they were saying, that's crossing the knowledge. They work with spirits. These people work with spirits. I don't know if y'all know with spirits. Haiti them. When we talking about Haiti,
they
that's
do.
necromancy.
Oh yeah, they do. They sure enough do.
So they
call them voodoo doctors.
Right. That's what the when he was doing all that stuff, that was African. That was Africanism.
Okay.
Right, doing voodoo and rituals. Mm-hmm. The Africans do that. We don't do rituals over here. No. See, and this is what we have to understand. This is a large custom that has been pale faces behind these Africans. These Africans are got natures, Persian spirits, JJs.
Yeah.
You walk by them, you don't feel nothing. And so when we talking about this, how good we was with spiritual wisdom, this is what we call knowing spirits in bodies. What we done came with the African philosophy, where you take the flesh up.
Yeah.
You got the flesh of the mind of God. Mm-hmm. That's Africans. You got we look the same, skin to skin. Yeah. But when it come kin to kin, you don't got the mind of God. Yeah. And that's people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only the ones that support Islam is European. Any pale face that doesn't support Islam is an African.
Yeah.
First president, what was it?
George Washington.
Our first, what they say, first black president. Black, what was it? Better keep up what I'm saying. Your first black president was not a nigger. It was an African. Niggas is not African. They don't niggas, throw like niggas.
Act like niggas.
Yeah, act like niggas ain't been through what niggas are.
Yeah, boy.
This is a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to understand these things to understand why we been duped the way we been duped. Why nobody ain't coming to the rescue. This is why. We finding out you got to separate the sheep and the goat.
Yeah.
We the lambs over here, or the lambs. Salon.
Yeah.
So,
that only our truth and Allah is what we need in that only. And that when that then we can start setting ourselves free right with that. That's the only ally. That's the only
we always say.
That's our only way out.
Our only way. That's why we always say if there's a will, there's a way. That's called ill. They didn't want us to have that. So this is why spiritual wisdom, and not flesh wisdom. So our people are a special people. We are the lamb, our salons. We separate ourselves from the goats. This is why all that goat stuff, this is all African spirituality. We didn't need African spirituality because we had our religion. Allah, Sufian. And it worked for us just as well. They calling African spirituality or Babala or Babara. Baba. So we have to understand these things. And this is Ka is the spirit. So we have to understand African spirituality is not American based. European and American is the same word. Europeans are not Europeans. Those that is not helping us, Africans. All Europeans, all Americans, in the ancient tongue would have been called Sufian or Sufians or Christians or Christians. And that's why they brought us something that imitated what we had and what we knew, and that's what they brought called Christianity. That's anti-Christian. Christianity, that's anti-Christian. Look at that. Look at it. Christianity. Anti-Christian. And we was the Sufians, the Christians, the Christians, the Sufians. And we spoke Arabic, not African. And we spoke Sufian and not African. This is why we have gotten this affair now, that we treat each other like Africans. And for those titles of the title African, you may want, if you don't understand what I'm saying. Those who understand what I'm saying know exactly what I'm saying is right on. But this is called gnosis. This took we had concrete jungle. Remember, jungles in Africa. We got forests. We call it the rainforest. The jungles in Congo, and when we talking about the anacondas and all, they over there. Man. Must be some things over there because that's wicked. Because we don't even.
Why?
See, and this is why we have to understand ain't no mistakes by our Creator. He's trying to show us something. It's evil in them waters. They used to call them black waters. I mean, not the black waters, yeah, kind of like the Niger River. But nigga was a good word for us. Yeah. But they wanted to turn it
1G, 2G.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad we just said that because it's time to bring that forth now. Why it's time. The why nigga was always a good word for us. Did y'all know before Tupac used the word Nigga, that came from an ancient time when we was in our home origin, before we migrated out to the Americas. And our descendants all in America, we talking about before then, we was using the word nigga. And it stood for never illallah. And this is how we kept a tight bond and to never forget each other. And this is why we would say my nigga. My dog. These are two people who are when we talking about dog and God, my dog, my G. This is coded in our phonetics. Ebonics is why we not African. We create language, smooth language.
That's why we use that Ebonic language that they talk like y'all, nah, why.
Right. Nobody sound. We say just for people who still are not understanding the words we would SHIT, FUCK, words that are not words. These are words ancient past that go so good with nigga that this is in ancient time. This is how we protect us from African sorcery. The favorite ones who love to do sorcery is West Africa. Is West Africans. They love West African magic. They love using West African magic. So we used to say we don't want none of that shit. Don't bring that shit over here. See, that was to protect us from the people who look like us but wasn't us, but we talk a certain way.
Yeah, we didn't realize it.
So they wanted to shut nigga down. This is why the people wanted to shut nigga down, shut your blackness down, your ebonics, your culture you had, because they wanted to fully Africanize us and make us one of those. See, we can never lose what we are. It's in us. That's why we even break the language of English. They say you need to do what you do. We say you ain't gonna tell us.
Yeah, but
see what we do with the language.
Yeah. Tell me what to do. You know?
Right. We know how to read.
Just let us know.
Right. It's letting us know. They try to reform us. even within that language, we made our own language. Ain't. They don't speak. They don't say ain't. English people don't say ain't, can't. We say that because we different.
I wanna.
I'm
gonna.
Yes.
It's got a rhyme and a sound.
It's rhyme and a sound, and that's how you knew that we was the Arabs or the people who rap.
English got us speaking flat, but just say and stop.
It's like that square dance.
Yeah.
What they say, what they call it, your waltzing. A square. Huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure do. That's right.
Yep.
73. Daring.
Mm-hmm.
Brave daring leads to death. Brave caution leads to life.
Mm.
The choice can be the right one or the wrong one. Who will interpret the judgment of heaven? Even the wise soul finds it hard. The way of heaven doesn't compete, yet wins handedly. Doesn't speak, yet answers fully. Doesn't summon, yet attracts. It acts perfectly easily. The net of heaven is vast, wide meshed, yet missing nothing.
That's our salon.
Ain't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm. That's
Ain't
paradise.
Got falling through the crack.
We're talking about the paradise.
Yeah.
That's what we should be in.
Fast.
Mm-hmm. Peace and paradise.
Mm-hmm.
Our new sayings. This is how we gotta wait and keep our spirit aware.
Mm-hmm.
It done fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So now when we wake back up, we gotta stay aware.
Still. Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yeah, we got to feel good about all the things that used to have a hold on us that's behind all three of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of the things that ain't many can say.
You're right.
It still got a hold on them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both on it. Let it
go in the
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
To that oneness.
Mm-hmm.
If you got you're seeking purification, there's some things you got to start doing.
Mm-hmm. Now it's only two types of minds that we need to understand. The whole shebang. Mm-hmm. We ain't got into all the many words of these languages because that's what I had to do. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But at the end, once you're searching for the whole thing, you can. Yep. So it's like a set of all. That little set, and it got all the sets in it. You got one set, but it got all the sets in it.
Pieces to the puzzle, scattered.
That's what we have.
Putting it all back together.
For us going through this.
Yes.
We got the whole set. We got the set of all sets.
Yes, indeed.
And so that ever existed, beginning of evil. Mm-hmm. And that's how evil began, is with this second mind.
That's right. And
this second mind still carry a second soul education to this day.
That's right.
And what we breaking down, this is we can either say the Arab, which is Araba, which is Sufian, which is Moraba, which is European. And then you have the African mind. Of course, all your Romanized languages that do nothing but war and are warlords. Hate the creator. Hate all of creation. No love in creation. These are the two minds.
Yeah.
So, and they look like two. This is why between the two used to be a large ocean.
Yeah.
So now we are talking about since this is what has been called mixing. So now majority of our people have been mixing spirits.
Yeah.
So they've been mixing African spirituality, which has nothing to do with African spirituality, but has all to do with black power.
Yeah.
Black power is European by its nature. Once we understand who we are, in a sense, this is why we don't have African names, African last names. Our last names are. Did that make sense? European is the same word as Arabian. So you were the Arabian Nights, the dark people. But you was the servants of God. So true black power. But we thought Arabs were Middle Easterners. That's how the Africans lied. Arabs has nothing to do with the Africans forged that lie of the Middle East.
I noticed they don't ever say nothing about the Middle West. Just say East. They don't say nothing about the Middle North. And it's always just.
Yeah. Because as the Sufian tell us, that's the second Babel, the second Babel, or the second Bible, where the Old Testament and the New Testament. These are two Bibles put into one by the Africans to steal our inheritance. That's why in their book they got a birthright stealing thing, event going on in it. Esau stealing somebody's birthright. See, and they mixing the language and the history.
Yeah.
So all they see that we are African.
Yeah.
And they just believe that they're Europeans. Now flip the script. Now, who is controlled? Who is, let's say, who is portrayed to be the good people?
White folks. Right?
White folks. White folks. White folks. We call white folks what? There we go. So the true Europeans, the Arabian Nights. Right. So now when we're talking about the chessboard, white was the Arabian. Black was the African. Purity rules. Purity is the ruler of the land. This is why they stole our titles to Pope, European, King, Queen, European. That's not African. The people of America, European name, not African. So this is what we're talking about. The Mac, the mix, the wheels, the and all of this.
When you look at that, and then we lead, and then we start planting our seeds and anywhere with the race mixing. And that ain't good at all. But yet, people call it love. But yet, when you have, it's just like kind of mix artificial with the real.
Right. Right. And that's what they keep doing. They keep masking themselves to entrap our souls. Because we can actually live beyond life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these six ethers can't.
You know. It seems like he, convinced us to hang out with him. Don't go to the life after beyond. You just stay here with me. Because I need you. And that's what you do. But there ain't no reason no wrong for now. Not me.
Yeah, no wrong for now. Yeah, but this is what we have to understand for us to completely. They did a 360, made us turn all the way around.
I mean, this was pure intention. Somebody had a master plan.
Yeah, they took a magnificent study.
Yeah.
And the Creator's power.
And remember what made it so good, because see, every time when you got a head start on you, and you wouldn't think somebody planning evil on you, so he not had time to readjust. He was trying to deceive us with. I mean, he had a big old head start. And it's just a miracle to be able to find your way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And see the lineup, be conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you talking about
this is why we understand the East versus the West. See, we the East, and anything opposite of the East is considered the West. The West represents death. The East represents life. To the East,
yeah.
But Africans, and when I say African, I'm talking about dark-skinned people, and I'm talking people. These are that's who made the European.
Yeah.
When they say the European was created, the African in Africa. He don't have any home except them brute. That's why he call them brutish. We the lovable one. We the loving dark skinned people. Let you get on the land, let you live and let you. But the no. See, and that's what all this coming off, keeping us hidden from.
Yeah.
This is what Washington D.C. about, Puerto Rico, all of this.
Yeah.
It's about African. Western magic.
Yep.
Call it, because that's what the Sufian called it.
Mm-hmm.
The people we say call Atlantis and all that, that's the same thing. Now I'm gonna take 74 and see what we got here. The Lord of Slaughter. When normal, decent people don't fear death, how can you use death to frighten them? Question mark. Even when they have a normal fear of death, who of us dare take and kill the one who does not? When people are normal and decent and death fearing, there is always an executioner to take the place of that executioner is of the great carpenter. People who cut the great carpenters would get off with their hands unhurt. Yeah, that's to the old. I just they told us our carpenters and all this. Our people wasn't carpenters. Our people were servants of God. And when we talking about carpentry, we talking about African African masonry. When we talking about building, African masonry, African slaves, workers, Africans. This is what they turning the Mexicans to be.
Yeah.
The new Africans.
Right now.
This is why y'all feel like you getting pushed out the way, which is a good thing. Because they know time is up. The divine is here. So now they need a new African. Remember they called you African American. Now they need a new African.
Yeah.
So this is what's been hidden from us that is now revealed to us by our divine creator, oh you who believe. Yep. And before you read, they done this by the alphabet. The African alphabet, letter by letter, created a spell by spell.
$75. Greed. People are the richest. That's why people are starving. And sometimes you wonder why they don't use a little all that tax money and then feed the people. I wonder why. But anyway, you should know about that. People rebel. The rich oppress them. That's why people rebel. Cheap. The rich make it too costly. That's why they hold it cheap. Back then, you get a whole lot of stuff for a little nothing. Back then, they didn't have no dollar store and all that kind of stuff. I even thought about that for that. Now everything used to be $1 in the dollar store. Now somehow climbed up to a quarter.
Yep. For myself.
Huh?
Yep.
Oh, Mr. Taxes. Get more taxes. Money. But those who don't live for the sake of living are worth more than the wealthy seekers. Huh?
That's the people
And
looking
that last paragraph is pretty much almost up. That's be it.
Those are Africans looking for our family fortunes.
Mm-hmm. If the downtrodden knew who he was and where he stood. And you don't have to live like that nor think like that. So I'm waking in the
Hardness. Living people and tender. Corpses are hard and stiff. The 10,000 things, the living grass, the trees are soft, pliant. Dead, they are dry and brittle. So hardness and stiffness go with death. Tenderness, softness go with life. And the hard sword fails. The stiff tree fails. The hard and great go under. The soft and weak fail.
Oh my God, Sarah as a little child. He was trying to tell you something. That was hard and soft there.
And the gentleness, like when the LIT, being able to speak gentle, and like the tongue being the sword.
That phonetics. That's what they say. Tongue is the sword. Phonetics. It can get us killed. It can get us healed.
That's right.
We got to know what we're speaking.
That's right.
Speaking death or life, that's what it's saying. Said because speak soft and tender, speak life. Well, I'm not saying I'm here based on that, but soft and tender goes with life.
Yeah, goes with life.
That's why I say Abraham was tender hearted. They were telling yourself.
That's why we say Illah Latifa Ar-Rahim. That's the gentle and the merciful.
Y'all want it down here. We got
I'll
that.
let him look at
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We're almost done. We got 8 minutes too. The gentle and the merciful. That's part of our way.
It is.
This is why.
It is. So, we got that. We is. That's why you think that we've been pushed around so? And ain't standing up and turning the other cheek and letting them do whatever he so pleases to. And not doing anything about it, stand up to it. Oh, tender hearted.
Unlearn this African thing. 7-7, the bow.
Arch.
Arch. The way of heaven is like a bow bent to shoot. Its top end brought down. Its lower end raised up. It brings the high down. Lifts the low.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Takes from those who have, gives to those who have not. Such is the way of heaven, taken from people who have, given to people who have not. Not so the human way. That's the African way. It takes from those who have not to fill up those who have. Who has enough to fill up everybody? Question mark. Only those who have the way.
What I give you thirst not.
The Illa Sufiana. See, it's all there. Or once we know our phonetics, our phonics. So the wise do without claiming, achieve without asserting, to show their worth.
All right, I just said they got 5 minutes. Adoptions. In the world is as salt, as weak, as water. Nothing else can wear the heart, the strong, and remain unaltered. Salt overcomes hard, weak overcome strong. Everybody knows it. Nobody uses the knowledge. So the wise say, by bearing common defilements, you become a sacrifice at the altar of earth. By bearing common evil, you become a law of the world. Right words sound wrong.
But I have to be right.
Right words
Sound wrong.
sound wrong.
Like I'm saying, we European and not African. The right words, they sound wrong because they've been telling us
Just
wrong words that sound right. But we not words. And it has divided our family, divided our homes, and it even divided self.
Yeah.
Self is even warring against its own self now.
It sure is. Because it don't know of self.
War. Yeah. And to our divine people, bring it to a divine closing. In the name of our King, Sufian, Asalam.